Namaste, namaste. That would have told you what our podcast today is all about. So, Utkarsh, why don't you do the honors? What are we going to talk about?
Oh, I got this guitar a while back, so I wanted to tell you guys about it. No, not really. No, this podcast is something that we've been meaning to make for a long time. It's about something near and dear to a lot of us, music,
Yes.
and particularly Indian music, the role of music in Indian culture, but with an interesting twist because we are going to compare notes, excuse me, on Indian music versus Western music because I know nothing about Indian music.
And I know
And
nothing about Western music.
so that will be interesting.
Yes. And the little personal background to this is that this aunt-nephew Jodi has discussed music forever from their own viewpoints. And I remember even a teenage Utkarsh trying to urge me to listen to metal and rock, and me trying to
It's
make him
not too
listen
late. I
to.
have a guitar. I have the way to
Thank you.
introduce you to some of it.
Thank you. And me trying my best to make him and his brother listen to Indian classical music. So it's a very appropriate, it feels really appropriate that we brought this very long-standing discussion to our podcast. For me, the historian, music is a passion, but so is history. So I'll also be talking a little bit about the history of Indian classical music. You know, music it's like an ocean. So we have to pick out certain little cupfuls or maybe drops to talk about. We can't talk about the entire ocean. And Indian classical music is an ocean within an ocean. So we'll talk about that, its history, and we'll hope to contrast it a little bit with Western classical music. But do remember, dear viewers and listeners, that this is going to be about what is called classical music. We will not really be touching popular music, will we, Utkarsh?
Not really. In fact, for me, the main reason I wanted to do this is we music is ubiquitous all around the world. We all know it. It's got a role in every culture. People enjoy it, dance to it, sing to it. It connects people. But given that nothing happens by accident when you look at Indian history and Indian philosophy and in all of Indian culture, I'm very curious because music is such a powerful thing. How do how does the Vedic way of looking at things or the
Yes.
ancient Indian way of looking at things, where does music fall? What is the deeper significance? I've been very curious about this. So that's really what I would love to understand from today's conversation.
So that's actually an amazing question because it is touches exactly the heart of the matter. Where does Indian music come from? Where does Indic music come from?
Hmm.
It comes from the same philosophical, metaphysical underpinnings that any other thing that we've talked about comes from. The source is the same. And before I go on to more details of music, I'll just remind you when we talked about math, we talked about par and upper knowledge and math, science, etc., upper knowledge. And there is something beyond that. There is par, upper, kshar, akshar. So music also has the same kind of philosophical underpinnings. What
Hmm.
is the ultimate source or what is the ultimate understanding of music? It's called Nad Brahma. And what is Brahma? We have already talked about it so many times, Utkarsh, that Brahma is the ultimate reality, God,
Yeah.
Paramatma, however you want
Hmm.
to name it. So
Hmm.
that Brahma is also identified as Nad. What is Nad? Nad is sound. So
Okay.
Nad Brahma and Nad Upasana. That means the worship of this Nad Brahma. That is from where the source of all this music comes. And there is, there are two ways of looking at it, or there are two types. There is a Ahat Nad, and there is an Anhat Nad. So Anhat Nad is that which is not heard. Ahat Nad is that which is heard. So you just pluck your string, you'll hear that. Or, suppose I say Sa, then you'll hear that. But there is
Hmm.
an Anhat Nad. That is also music, that music which is in silence. So whenever you play two notes, there's something in between them, even if you play them in quick succession. So
Hmm.
that is part of Anhat Nath. That is also part of music.
That's nothing. I mean, that's silence. No.
Yes, that's nothingness. That's
Hmm.
silence.
Hmm.
That is Nad
Hmm.
Brahma.
Hmm.
So you know that for us, the entire world is in nothingness, silence, zero.
Hmm.
So music also has that kind of concept behind it. And there is, you can increase that silence, decrease that silence. That also has a role to play in the way your music comes through.
Oh, it has a big role to play. In
Yes,
fact,
yes.
one of the not going to jump ahead to our conversation later on this one, but one of the major ways to make a song better or special, honestly, is how you use silence and how you use nothingness. But anyways,
Yes,
please
yes.
go ahead.
So this is from, these are the ideas of Nad Brahma, Nadopasana. Then from Nad comes Shruti. Shruti is the act of hearing. So there is a sound and then there is the act of hearing. Obviously, the act of hearing is integral to music. Without hearing, the Nad means nothing. Then from there, of course, you come to ideas of the Swar Mandal, which is the Sapta Swar, or I don't know, what do you call it? The seven notes?
I mean, they are just the notes. I
The
don't
seven
know
notes.
they have a name, and they're not
Okay.
necessarily seven notes. There are more. It's an
Yeah, but
octave.
yeah.
Okay, so octave is the right word, and octave is there are 12 notes with the
Okay.
12th repeating to as the first.
Okay. So then there's a little bit of a difference because
Yeah.
for us, these seven notes are basic, and the five that you speak of, those
Hmm.
five are variations on some of them, a little
Hmm.
lower or a little higher.
Yeah.
Those are the variations.
I like how you're
So,
saying for us. I mean, I'm also I just know the Western system, but yes. So
okay.
I'm representing the West in a very poor
Yes.
capacity.
Well, I am also in a very poor capacity. Utkarsh, I don't think either of us can claim to be experts. Although I have a very funny story about my music learning, which I must tell you because you play the
Hmm.
guitar, but a little later. So
Yeah.
anyway, from the Swar Mandal, then you form ragas, which we'll talk about, and then Geet. And these speak to what? These speak to your Atma. And this Atma then goes back to the Nadopasana and the Nad Brahma. So it is a kind of circle. This is the concept, the philosophical concept of music. But
Hmm.
how was it in practical terms? So you have heard of the four Vedas. Everyone has heard of the four Vedas: Rig, Sam, Yajus, and Atharva. Now, the Rig Ved has 10 mandals and it has a lot of mantras and suttas in it, which are chanted. The Sam,
Hmm.
the Sam Ved is, in a very simplistic way, if I can put it, is putting those mantras to music. So
Okay.
Samved is the source of all Indian classical music, be it the Hindustani style or be it the Carnatic style. That is the source of all music. So the philosophy as well as the practice, all of it comes together in the Samved. And I will also remind everyone of what I have spoken about often about the way Indian epistemology, that is Indian knowledge systems, are organized. So there are 14 Vidyasthans. Of them, four are the four Vedas and there are six Upavedas. Of these six Upavedas, what are they for? They are for understanding the Vedas. So of these six, one is called Shiksha. And this Shiksha is the base from which all musical theory and practice is derived. So the Samved is many thousands of years old. We've talked about dating and dating the Vedas very extensively in other episodes, so I won't talk about it. But Shiksha, that is phonetics, has had many great intellectuals, rishis, and sages contributing to it. This is the theory of music, and the most important one is the Naradiya Shiksha. This was by Rishi Narad, sage Narad. So this Naradiya Shiksha, you can say, is the first real manual of music. The
Hmm.
Samved gave you everything, you sang the Samved, but things were systematized by the
Okay.
Naradiya Shiksha. There were
So I have
others also. Yeah, yeah,
hmm.
tell me.
Good. No, please finish your thought. I had a question, but just finish your
I
thought.
just wanted
Hmm.
to say a couple of things.
Yeah.
Shiksha,
Yeah. Hmm.
another very famous person was
Hmm.
Panini. who also contributed to this Shiksha. So
Hmm.
Panini and his Ashtadhyay and grammar is very famous because he is
I think
not.
I remember you mentioning when we talked about, was it democracy or something, where from his grammar examples
Yes,
you could
yes,
deduce the nature of
yes,
society.
yes.
Was it the same
So
Panini?
that's
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
very good, full marks.
Something I remember. Wow,
Yes.
I'm shocked I remember it, but the
So,
name is his name is distinctive. Let's just say that.
yes, his name is distinctive. So, Panini is very well known today because the science of linguistics, then the
Hmm.
subject of semiotics, and
Hmm.
the and computer languages are
Hmm. Hmm.
found
Hmm.
to have lots of
Hmm.
similarities with what is written in Panini. So he's become a kind of base text for all these. So we remember Panini. But the Naradiya Shiksha is for music, the theory of music. It has, it's not all that well known even amongst people who are knowledgeable, because there is this other text which is known as the basis for all Indian aesthetics. That is the Natya Shastra of Bharat. We've spoken about this also before. We'll speak again later. But Narad Muni wrote this Shiksha. I just wanted to say something which is a bit funny. I don't know whether anyone remembers the Ramayana episode and the Indonesian Ramayana, the Kakavin Ramayana episodes. The same Narad has been picked up over there and he has been made into a kind of, jester figure along with two assistant jesters. But over here, Narad is in a very, very serious role. He is the theoretician of Indian music. Your question?
My question was, so you said that the structures of how music is organized is defined here. So what is a good resource? I was asking in general, what is a good resource for someone like me or anyone who's interested beyond reading the Vedas ourselves, which is
Hmm.
going to be very difficult, and translations are of course
So
never
I'll tell
perfect.
you, there is this gentleman called Srinivas
Hmm.
Rao, and he writes very, very learned blogs on music and
Okay.
in very simplified ways. So we'll put
Okay.
one of the links down below
Okay.
the
Yeah.
video, and anyone who wants can go and they are simple yet they're very detailed.
Yeah.
So in
No,
fact, I
because
will
for
be referring to his blog also. I'll be
yeah,
showing parts of it. So you
yeah.
can refer to that. It's a good resource.
No,
It's
it's
in
great because
English.
yeah, no, that's great. I should of course learn Sanskrit at some point in time. But the thing is, because I've been playing music for what, more than 20 years now, but with zero, or not zero, but very little knowledge of theory. Right. And
Okay.
sometimes I wonder, I should know a little bit more about theory. Then I'm like, maybe I should study music theory, which for guitar and
Yes.
everything is Western music theory. Then I'm
Yes.
like, maybe I should not only consider only studying Western, which I do understand a little bit already just over the years. So, which is why I'm very curious to study Indian music theory. And, that's why I was asking that question. But go
So,
ahead.
Utkarsh, you have a very distinguished aunt. That is me. Because when I was in year eight, I did a graduate degree in the theory of Indian music.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
yes,
You
and
should have
I had.
started with that.
No, the thing
That
is
shows
that
how
it was a
modest
long
you are,
time
that you that
ago.
you didn't even mention it right till the middle of the podcast.
No, you see, it's been a long time. I was in year 8, 9, and 10. And I did
Okay.
this theory of Indian music, and I did have this degree. I
Okay.
also have something in practice, which I'm sure you'll laugh at. Are you aware of that poor cousin of your guitar, the Hawaiian guitar?
Yes, of course. It's called the lap steel guitar. And I mean, it's a
Okay.
Hawaiian guitar. Yes, it's basically you play it on the lap like this, right?
Yes.
Yes, a lap
So
steel
your
guitar.
aunt
Yeah.
is also an expert on that guitar. That is
Oh,
what I
great. There's
learned.
a guitar solo that needs that kind of playing, so you can do that for us next time.
So the point about it being in school was that it's been a long time.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was very wonderful that you set down this topic for today, because I went and I brushed up a lot of things that I had learned when I was very young, and they have a
Hmm.
very new meaning today.
Hmm.
But
Hmm. Hmm.
yes, the theory of Indian music, of course, the basics were always there with me, but I brushed
Yeah.
it up today.
Yeah.
The theory of Indian music, I would just like to say a few other things. One is the timing. So the Samved, I don't know when to date it, thousands of years.
Hmm.
The Shiksha, Naradiya Shiksha, is at
Yeah.
least 1300 years before the Common Era.
Okay.
So that's also about what, 3, 4,000 years old.
Hmm.
So we are
Okay.
talking about this very sophisticated view of Sangeet, which has been systematized long, 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 long ago. So
Hmm.
Samved also has other things, not just music, but there is a Sanhita in it, the Gan Sanhita. There is an Archik Sanhita and a Gan Sanhita. I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's the Gan Sanhita in which all the mantras are actually sung. Sam means the sweet music which destroys your sorrow. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a list of things that are the most dear to Lord Krishna. So he says, amongst trees, I am Ashwath. Amongst Dhanodharis, I am Ram. They're very long description
Hmm.
of things. So amongst the Vedas, he is the Samved. He does not
Okay.
say Rigved. He says the Samved because it is the sweetest way in which you can convey something to
Hmm.
the people who are listening to you. Okay, so Utkarsh, I have said something which needs to be demonstrated. I have said that the Rik has mantras
Hmm.
and Sam sings those
Hmm.
mantras.
Hmm.
So what is the meaning of these two things? How is it? What is the difference between chanting a mantra and singing it?
Chanting is more, what should I say, monotone, right? You're basically not
No,
monotone
there are
exactly.
actually six things in that, six specific technical things which are given in the Samved. So
Okay.
what I will do is I
Yeah.
will just I myself will chant a mantra which is the Mahamrityunjay mantra, which is
Okay.
from the
Yeah.
Rig Ved, and then
Yeah.
I will play a little bit of singing of the Samved. Now,
Okay.
unfortunately, it will not be the same mantra because I don't know Samgan, so I cannot
Okay.
sing what is there in the Samgan. I know a little bit about chanting, so I will do a little bit of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And then we listen to the Samgan. So you'll see the difference, and then I'll tell you what are the technical differences.
Okay.
Does that
Sounds
work?
interesting. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. This is the Mahamrityunjay mantra. ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् ये ते सहस्रमयुतं पाशामृत्योमर्त्याय हन्तवे तान् यज्ञस्य मायया सर्वानवयजामहे मृत्यवे स्वाहा Now, in this, you will have
Hmm.
noted, Utkarsh, that there are pauses.
Yes.
There is a
Yeah.
certain technique to it. It's not
Yes.
like speaking it. Now
No, no,
I will,
there's a definite rhythm to it, and there are definite notes which are different
yes,
from each other, which I can hear.
yes, yes. So now what I'm going to do is just play a very little bit of of Samgan. Okay.
Yep.
चित्रं राभं संग्रभा या
So now, assuming Utkarsh that everyone has heard it, and we'll cut out this little thing between us.
Yep.
There are some particular ways of singing. So, what are the ways in which you sing and not chant? Some of the
Hmm.
techniques are the same, but they are put together in particular ways. So,
Yeah.
one is holding your breath for a long time. So, maybe
Hmm.
you'll do an ah or whatever word you use
Yeah.
for a long
Yeah.
time. Another one is vikar, changing the
Hmm.
pronunciation of the word to adjust to
Hmm.
the rhythm. In the Rig
Hmm.
Veda, you never, ever, ever do that.
Okay.
Okay, this is a complete no-no. It is that mantra is destroyed if you change it even a little bit. You break words,
Hmm.
you repeat them.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
called abhyas. Then you may even stop somewhere. Then there
Hmm.
is a very interesting thing which is called stobha, which means you add things like ho, ho, ha, ha, he, hum to
Hmm.
give it a rhythm and to give it music.
Hmm. Hmm.
Totally not allowed in the Rig Veda.
Okay.
So singing these mantras means something specific, certain ways in which you change it to make it, and you know what it should be. How the Naradiya Sukta defines music. It should be the way a bird flies in the air, the way a fish swims in the water. So which means it should be absolutely natural and smooth. So did you find that Rik mantra natural and smooth? No, it was, well, natural, I don't know, but it was not smooth.
No, it wasn't.
There
It
were
wasn't. Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah.
There were breaks. It was not natural and smooth.
Yeah.
And in a way, perhaps you can even say that it was a little harsh. So this softening through music to convey the same thing, that is what is done by the Samved. Now, in every yajna, yajna is the fire sacrifice on which all of Vedic life is based. In every yajna, you have all the four Vedas are represented through four main priests. There can be many, but there are four main. So one is the Hota, he is from the Rig Veda. One is the Udgata. This Udgata is the main person who sings everything. He represents the Samved. And you have the Adhvaryu for the Yajurved and Brahma for the Atharvaved. Not discussing that right now. Interesting thing about Samgan is that women also did it. So for all those people who say that women were not allowed in Vedic rituals, this is one of the things which negates what they say.
Okay.
Uh, so what have I told you up till now? Let me just sum it up because I think it's a bit complicated, isn't it? So you have the Rig Veda, the singing of the Rig Veda in the Gan Sanhita is the Samved. And the Samved does certain technical things to the mantras which are not allowed in the Rig Veda, which makes it singing. And there are also 5 steps in this singing, which Prastav, Udgit, Upadrav, Nithan, we don't need to go into that, but these 5 steps are given. My point here is that this is already a technical manual on singing. But there were a lot of things which changed, and as we go along, I think maybe we'll talk about those. So, do you have any questions, or should we?
No, I think the
move on?
the origin and history of it is very clear. What I'm eager to now understand better is how music is organized as best as we can understand it in the Indian system, right? So yeah, that was what I wanted to move to.
Music is organized on the basis of the swaras, which are what you call your notes.
Okay.
Where do they come from? They have to come from somewhere.
You create them, you make them in.
How do you know what to create? How did the first person know what to create?
Maybe they found a wire somewhere and they pulled it. That's the sound it made.
Utkarsh,
they hit something.
Utkarsh, I'm going to talk about the Indian origin.
It came from the voice.
Swaras.
Because you can create notes with your voice.
Yeah. But how and then how, why were there 7? Why not 3, 5, 9?
But isn't that a classification? Because you can split.
Yes.
So is for the 7, I'm guessing the first and the 7th are the same, right? You circle back to the same note, but a higher version of it.
Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni. 7
and then you come back to sa,
ones.
which is a higher version of the sa.
Yeah, you come back to the sa, but there are 7 separate notes.
Yeah, of course. And the 8th one, then you come, the 8th one is then back to the.
Utkarsh, shall we do one thing? Shall I sing Sare Gama in my whatever, in the Hindi notation, and you do it via your guitar?
Sure. We'll have to do the same scale, at the same relative pitch, but okay, you go ahead.
It's okay. Maybe we can do it one after the other. I'll do it and then you do it.
Yeah, you do it first, then I'll hear you.
Sare Gama Pa Dha Ni Sa Ni Dha Pa Ma Ga Re Sa. Now you go.
Like
Great.
I'm back to learning guitar.
No, so now, Utkarsh, I named these notes. You also named them.
No, so you see, you can play the sequence anywhere. I played it here, for example, but I can play it here also,
Yes.
or here.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
where I
So
played, yeah, where
Utkarsh,
I
that's
played it.
called gram. That's called gram.
Okay, great. So where we played it, we started off with C. So this was basically the C major scale.
Yes. Yes.
That
So
was a C major scale.
yeah. But then don't you have C, D, E, F,
Yeah,
whatever
so C,
you call?
basically C, D, yeah, it goes on in that. I'll have to name them note by note, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
So the
So
first,
then
yeah.
so this Sare Gamma is kind of translated into C, D, E,
Yeah.
F, and what you are calling as octaves, I think it is the gram. So there are 3 grams. So I'll go back to the Naradiya Sukt. What does he say? That there are 7 notes. That is the Sare Gamma. And then he just defines music in this particular way. That there are 7 swars, 3 gram, which means your scale, 3 scales, that is the medium scale, high scale, and low scale. There are 21 murchanas, which means variations on notes. The ones that you say 7 plus 5 is equal to 12, those 5 variations. So the total that we have in Indian musical theory, there are 21 murchanas and 49 tans. So this is the definition given in the Nardiya Sukta, Nardiya Shiksha. Let's not go into the meaning of all these, otherwise we'll be
Yeah,
having
I
a
think I would
class
like
over
to
here.
read it up because gram is a little bit different because that thing that I played, I could play it in anywhere, like 20 different places.
Yeah, you'll be changing the scales.
Yeah.
You'll be changing the scales. Yeah,
So there's more than 3. I mean, it's as
yeah.
many as I want.
So I think that
Yeah.
would be, so we have theoretically 3 gram.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is in the Nardiya Shiksha. We'll go
Yeah.
along and see what happened to all this
Yeah.
as we went along.
Yeah.
And something very interesting happened to us in India because of the Islamic invasion. There was a
Okay.
kind of break in the musical tradition, and 2 separate streams came out from that. But one more thing that I want to kind of put down here, say here, is that the things that are important for Indian music are melody, rag, and rhythm. You tell me what is important for Western music.
So melody is important, but there's melody, but then melody usually doesn't happen in isolation. It happens on top of something. So it happens on top of what is chords, where you combine multiple notes to create a sound, which is a combination of 3 notes. And typically you could have a chord sequence. So if you listen to all of popular music, or even forget popular music, even if you look at what the Mozarts and the Beethovens are playing, they will play the chords, or they will express the chords at their individual notes. So chords are a big part of Western music, which I don't see the equivalent in Indian music.
And harmony, what is harmony?
Harmony is when you have something that is similar to the main melody, but is slightly removed. So, for example, in your Sare Gama Padanisa, so oops. So you play, in this particular case, you play the relationship between sa and pa. There's a gap of 7 notes per the Western system. In that you play, if the melody has these notes, harmony will have the same notes plus 7 of the melody, and it creates a certain kind of a sound.
Okay.
So that's this
again,
yeah.
This is another difference. This is another difference. But I had posed a question to which I have not given you an answer as yet. Where did those 7 swars come from?
Yes.
So there is a certain sequence from the Samved to the Nardiya Shiksha, and later from where how those 7 swars actually came, how they were named, and how those sounds were understood. So in the Samved, there are only 3 swars, and they are not called Saregama. They are called Uddat, Anudat, and Swarit. So that is just high, low, and medium.
Okay.
From all these, for example, from the Uddat, the highest ones, 2 swars came which were Ni and Ga. From Anudat, which is the middle one, came Re and Dha, and from Swarit came Sa, Ma, Pa. So if you put these together, then you have these 7. But how were they organized? They were organized not Sare Gama Padha Nisa, because they were thought of as the Vedic sounds were compared to Laukic sounds. Now, what are Laukic sounds? See, Vedic sounds are sacred, they are for worship, they are for something very serious and foundational to culture. There was also Laukic music, which we would maybe, wrongly describe as folk music, but it gives you an idea. So, one very important thing for Laukic music was the flute. This is one of the oldest instruments across the world, across cultures, is the flute. So from the flute or the venu, so what was done is by Narad, he connected Vedic music to Laukic music. He connected those 3 swars to the 7 swars of Laukic music. So they were called Prathama, Dvitiya, Tritiya, but Prathama was not Sa, it was Ma. So the sequence was Ma, Ga, Re, Sa, Ni, Dha, Pa. But as it turned out, this Maga, Re, Sa, Ni, Dha, Pa were not very convenient for music classification or singing. So Narad Shiksha made it Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni, Sa. And
Okay.
by the way, I will just a little bit in advance talk about what we are going to do next. That is stringed instruments. So there is a mention of stringed instruments even in the Nardiya Shiksha, which is 4,000 years old. So much for Indian instruments being all Persian. But that's just a preview of what we are going to discuss next time. So here we have this Sare Gama Padha Nisa. So you were asking me about a resource. So let me just share Srinivas Rao's blog. And after that you can just go there and read up on many different kinds of things. He writes about everything. This is from his blog. And it just gives you a list of Samswar, that is from the Samved, Venuswar, that is the Laukic or the flute, and these are the names. And later they were organized in a different way by Narad as Sare Gama Padha Nisa. So, don't you have any questions about how things went on after Narad? What happened after Narad Shiksha? Or do you have some other question?
I wanted to ask about rhythm. So I understood the
Yes.
melody part to some extent. What about the
Okay.
rhythm, and what about specifically tal, which I just know of, but I really don't know what it is.
Okay. So rhythm is exactly tal. If melody, rag, and rhythm are the 3 things of Indian music, then rhythm is tal. So tal is what? It's timing. It's the beat. So the most common, the most famous, the most simple one with which everyone starts is Teen Tal. So would you like to just listen to Teen Tal?
Can you do it with the hands?
I can do it with the hands, but I'd rather not. Like I told you, I'm very, very rusty. So I'll end up doing something wrong. I don't want to do that.
Da din din da da din din da da din din da da din din da.
So it is around this that you will organize the timing of your entire composition. So this is tal, rhythm. And every rag is based on some tal. Now, what is a rag? A rag has a very specific structure. A rag consists of certain swaras. So out of the 7, certain swaras are picked up, and only those are used in that particular rag. So you have an aroh and an avroh, which means you go up the scale and down, not up the scale, up the swars and down the swars. Sare, Gama, Padha, Ni, Sani, Dhapa, Maga, Re. So, there are lots of technicalities in this, Utkarsh. They are classified according to the number of swars used, etc. I don't think I want to go into that. But you have an aroh and avroh, then you have an alap. And alap is a non-rhythm piece, which is just swar. It is without the rhythm. That's why it's called an alap. Using the aroh, avroh, and the alap, you can recognize the rag immediately. After
Okay.
that, you have the sthai and the antara. The sthai is that basic which you go back to, and the antara is there's one, two, three antara, and after each antara, you go back to the sthai. And after that, you have the tan, which is a play again on these same swaras in different ways and very fast. This is a
Okay.
rough description of a rag. This is a
Okay.
rough description of a Hindustani classical rag, but
Okay.
a Carnatic classical rag will also be more or less like this, but the names will be different.
Okay.
A little
Got it.
bit the arrangement will be different.
Yeah. Rag to me sounds very similar to scale than in Western, because
Maybe.
scale is basically the choice of notes that exist within a scale, which it'll be different for a major
Yes.
scale versus a minor scale. Now, their scales are not linked to any particular rhythm or any particular time signature. That I guess is more of case with rag and tal.
Hmm.
Scale is just those notes, these particular notes that are and the relationships. That's it.
Yeah, so then that sounds very, very similar, Utkarsh.
Yeah.
Apart from the rhythm bit, that sounds
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
And also, tell me, is there some overarching classification of Western music?
What do you mean?
Like we have in Hindustani and Carnatic music, we have ways of classifying all the rags. There are many systems, rag, ragini, series, melakarta, etc. I'll explain them. So, is there any way of saying there are 98 ragas and 32 of them are
Yeah,
here?
there.
I'm just
I
making
don't
things
know
up.
if they've counted a number, but there are scales, there are modes, there
So,
are
how
all
many
sorts of things.
scales are there, roughly?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Many, many.
okay,
Several double digit.
okay. So, if you have several double digit, then can you classify those several double digit into groups or etc.?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I will tell you now. But
Yeah.
I do want to just talk about. Do you have any questions up till
No, no.
now?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So we started with the Samved. We went to
Yeah.
the Naradiya Shiksha. Then Naradiya Shiksha is still 1400 BCE. After
Yeah.
that, we have Bharat's Natya Shastra, which is around, say, 300 BCE. He is somebody who belongs to Mauryan times, and my love for the Mauryan times. Then after that, you have someone called Dattilam who comes after Bharat. Then
Hmm.
you have a very important person who's called Matang, and he wrote the Brihateshi. And in this, a lot of the ways in which music is classified today, this male karta that I keep talking about,
Hmm.
this come from Matang's classification, and this would be first millennium of
Okay.
the Common Era. Then you have the Geet Govind, which is around 11th, 12th century, Jaydev. Then after that, you have the Sangeet Ratnakar of the 12th century, and you have a lot of Lakshan Granthas. These Lakshan Granthas are all theoretical manuals. Now,
Hmm.
what happened in the 12th century, which kind of split the music world into two? It was the Islamic invasion.
Okay.
The Islamic invasion overran North India very strongly, but not so much South India. In South India, especially in places like Vijayanagar, etc., music was absolutely, it was very, very prosperous. Just give me a minute. I think my computer is trying to die. Let me not let it die. Okay. So, where was I? I was on the 12th century.
Yeah.
So, 12th century,
Vijayanagar.
yeah, Vijayanagar was in the south, and
Hmm.
there became there came to be a difference between the way classical music was approached in the north and in the south.
Hmm.
A lot of music went into the hands of people who followed Islam.
Hmm.
So the devotional content, because I don't know whether I've emphasized it enough, but music was for devotion, especially classical music. Maybe
Hmm.
not Lokik so much, that is folk music. This
Hmm.
was for devotion. This was for Nado Upasana, Nad Brahma.
Hmm.
Now, the people who followed Islam were not interested in that, but they were interested in the music.
Hmm.
So they took over a lot of the music, and a lot of the lyrics were lost.
Okay.
And they gave their own touch to this by
Hmm.
making it less structured, or let me say, making it more contemplative. So a style came into being which is called khayal,
Hmm.
which means that you weave melodies as you go along, as you sing, and you can weave them in whichever way you want. And
Hmm.
they are like, dreamy weavings of the number of swaras that you can use. That is called khayal.
Okay.
And it became very much influenced by Muslim and Persian uh, influences. So Utkarsh, you told me the other day you were reading something about stringed instruments and it just insisted on Persian,
Yeah.
everything being Persian. So that is because they are starting from the 12th century and they are
Hmm.
looking at only North Indian Hindustani classical music.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this difference became very, very marked. The people who did this for North Indian music kind of made it separate, Amir Khusro and Gopal Nayak.
Okay.
But in the south, there was someone who was called Purandar Das in the 15th century.
Hmm.
He was from Vijayanagar. That he became the person for Karnataka Sangeetam in Tamil. It's called Tamil Desai, and otherwise it is Karnataka Sangeetam, which is formal music. It may
Hmm.
also come from the word which is, karna, which means good to hear something
Hmm.
from that
Hmm. Hmm.
source.
Hmm.
Then there was a book called the Sangeet Ratnakar of the 12th century. Then there was a division in the north, Gopal Nayak, Amir Khusro; in the south, Purandar Das. And in the 18th century, what these are called the Trinity of Carnatic music. Tyagaraja, Shyama Shastri, and Muthuswami Dikshitar. They made kritis. These were all devotional kritis.
Okay.
They became very popular. Even today, it is these kritis which are sung. Now, all these ragas that I talked to you about, they were classified according to Raga Ragini system. What was this? In the same way than in the Naradiya Shiksha itself, five basic ragas were given, which were based on the five elemental materials, the five Panchabhut. So you
Hmm.
had Raga Shri, Vasant, Bhairavi, Pancham, and Megh, which was earth, sky, wind, water. These were the five basic. So
Hmm.
apart from these, there were also some Raginis, and then there was a concept of Ragaputra. We were the children of these ragas, which means associated with them. So this was the Rag Ragini system, and all the ragas were put into this. In the south, also this Rag Ragini system was followed, but after uh, the way in which North Indian classical music went somewhere else, the whole system became very confused till in the late 19th and early 20th century. There was this musical genius called Bhat Khande. Bhat Khande then devised the Thaat system. He gave 10 basic Thaat for North Indian classical music, and all other ragas are derived from that. In the
Okay.
south, you had the Melakarta system, which was given by Govindacharya in the 18th century. This has 72 ragas. Okay, so you said you don't know how many scales are there, but in
Hmm.
these systems, everything is fixed
No,
numerically.
I'm sure people who know. It's not me.
Oh, okay. So there are 72.
Hmm.
Now, the thing is that since both North and South Indian classical music come from the same roots, there are so many similarities. Even the
Hmm.
ragas are the same, but names are slightly different. Sometimes, like Rag Bageshri is the same in North and South, Rag Bihag is the same. But Rag Bhairav of the North becomes Maya Malavagaula in the South.
Hmm.
Rag Malkons becomes Rag Hindol. So
Hmm.
names change. Sometimes the ragas remain the same, sometimes they are also different. Now, the
Hmm.
devotional content in Carnatic music is much, much more. It is more or less lost in Hindustani classical music.
Hmm.
And Hindustani classical music, having also learned a little bit of vocal music, you realize that the lyrics were least important. You could be repeating the same word. Sometimes they made sense, sometimes they didn't make sense. There was
Okay.
also this Gurukul system wherein the Guru, and they were mostly Muslims who took
Hmm.
over those, were not able to understand the lyrics because they were not into that tradition.
Hmm.
So a little bit of a mess was made of those lyrics. So the emphasis became on music and not on lyrics.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas for the South Indian system, it is very, very devotional. There were devotional compositions in Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam, etc. And in
Okay.
the north, there was Khayal Gaiki. So this is the
Hmm.
way in which the northern system and the southern system have diverged
Hmm.
from the
Hmm.
12th century. The
Hmm.
links, if you want to take
Hmm.
them straight back, perhaps it is true that Carnatic music is
Hmm.
more directly connected to the Samveda today than is North Indian classical music, because it does have a lot of Islamic and Persian inputs.
Hmm. Hmm.
Even the language is different. Like Amir Khusro, it was a kind of proto-Hindi Urdu. He's very famous for that. And some of his compositions are sung even till today in North India.
Hmm.
Some of his loris are very, very popular. So this division is there, and also, like I said, Khayal Gaiki became, weaving of melodies, but Carnatic music is more, it's faster, more rhythmic. The lyrics are important, and sometimes when I was earlier, I learned and I was an aficionado of Hindustani music. So I used to find Carnatic staccato.
Hmm.
Today, I have almost stopped listening to Hindustani music, because for me, music is all about devotion. And if it is all about devotion, then Carnatic music
Hmm.
offers that experience.
Okay.
So that difference is very much there.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That
Okay.
was really
Very
a potted history of
a fair bit to digest for sure.
yes, yes. That's what I thought. Too much, maybe. But
No,
you've
no,
got
no.
an idea of the way it worked.
Yes.
You know that, because today you can ask, why is it that there is Hindustani classical and there is Carnatic?
Yeah.
Why is there this difference?
Why is there a difference? Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this makes sense. I think a lot to take in. I think what is very interesting to me is that, again, nothing is by accident, as always,
Yes.
when it comes to
Yes.
the Indian
Yes.
Vedic ancient tradition. So that was most interesting. And I have always, and this point on Carnatic versus Hindustani, I've always noted that there is a difference, and I never understood why. Not that I'm particularly into either of them, but
Hmm.
it's very interesting to know for sure.
My journey has been very strange, because, of course, I started with Hindustani
Yeah,
classical, being a North Indian,
yeah,
and now I listened to a few.
yeah,
Sanjay Subramaniam was the first one actually
yeah.
who I listened to live, and then my entire outlook changed. So
Hmm.
music is always a personal journey.
Yeah, for me, the part of Indian music that really, for some reason, connects, and it's not even music. I think if I have shown you, as you alluded in the beginning of this podcast, my tastes in music tend to be on the very, very much heavier side. Let's just say that. And somehow, when you combine, and I don't know which shlokas they are, but sometimes when you combine shlokas with heavy music, like that band Rudra does,
Yes, and
it hits
actually,
very
let's
differently.
recommend it to our viewers,
Yeah,
Utkarsh. I
yeah,
also, I mean, I loved it.
yeah. So
Although
Rudra is this
metal is
band from
not,
Singapore. Yeah.
it's not, metal is not my thing, but Rudra is
Yeah,
amazing.
Rudra is, I mean, they are metal in sound, but essentially they are a they're a Vedic band ultimately. They call themselves Vedic metal.
Hmm.
It's basically all their themes and all is all to do with everything to do with basically ancient India and all the Veds and all, right?
Yes, and they use some of the
Yeah,
mantras
mantra.
from our
So
own
I
tradition.
so maybe in a different, I really want to understand what is it, like it just the combination of a mantra with that music just works in such a gut level. So that's the
I
part
think,
to me that is
hmm,
very difficult
I think
to
maybe
like.
it's because of the heavy rhythm, and rhythm is a
Yeah,
very strong part of Indian music.
yeah, yeah. Like there's that song which uses certain portions, not all the Bhagavad Gita is very
Hmm.
long, but
Hmm.
it uses
Little
certain
bits, yeah.
shlokas from the Bhagavad
Hmm.
Gita
Yeah.
together with that, and it just works. I don't know why it works. It just,
Utkarsh, maybe
yeah.
we should end
Yeah.
with making our viewers listen to a little bit of that. Maybe you can put it in
I will
later.
probably get a copyright strike, but I'll
Problem.
definitely direct
Oh,
them. Yeah, but I'll direct them
okay. Okay.
over there. So there's that. So for me, when it comes to Indian music, there is certain rags which I now recognize are rags, which have a certain
Hmm.
sound to them, which I really like, and then there is this particular bit of certain shlokas, how it combines. That's what personally I find very, very, yeah,
For me,
interesting.
Utkarsh, since you are somebody who likes Western music, I have I have never found it to speak to me, and I don't know why. I have tried. I have even sung in a choir. So I
Maybe you
have
haven't
tried.
listened to enough metal. Let me recommend to you a
Yeah.
playlist of of
Utkarsh,
the
you've
best.
been trying this for 10, 15 years. It's not going to work.
Longer.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I suppose everyone has their
No,
own
actually, what you're
predilections.
missing is kawaii metal. Kawaii in Japanese means cute.
Hmm.
So
So
kawaii metal is basically very heavy metal songs with cute schoolgirls singing. Uh,
no, no,
so
no,
I think that'll be
Utkarsh.
the one for you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
They are massive. It's called baby metal, by the way, one of the biggest
Oh my
bands
God.
out there.
I'm going to Google it later. BB metal indeed.
Baby metal, yes. Okay, anyways.
Okay. So I think we are reaching our 1 hour
Yep,
end now. And I hope that all of you have been entertained by this mix of music and history. This is something which we should have done a long time ago. I thoroughly enjoyed it, Utkarsh.
absolutely. It was good. It was good to get my guitar out, or instead of just
Yeah,
being on the wall,
yeah.
as it usually is in our
And
podcasts.
please look at our coordination. His guitar and my sari are the same color. So please look at our
Not
amazing
just
level of
that, not
coordination.
just the guitar, the even the
That's
metal on the
gold.
guitar is gold, matching the sari.
Yeah, and this is gold. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is amazing, Utkarsh.
This was
We are
not
too
planned.
good. We are too good. So, if I hope you guys loved this, and we should have apologized for this long gap. But like I've always said, we are a two people group, and we always have different problems or different things to deal with. And Utkarsh is actually just getting up from a lot of fever. So, a shout out for him for taking the trouble to come and working through
Yeah. Hopefully you
his.
didn't notice all the coughing. So that's just a hope.
And you know what? Next time we're going to continue with this and we are going to talk about stringed instruments. So,
Absolutely.
wait for that. And sorry for the delay. We're going to try and put in maybe another episode and one Hindi episode before the year ends. So, hope to see more of you. And do tell us what you think of this slightly different episode. And we'll try and do more of this. If you guys like this, we can pick up different instruments or different pieces of music and do their history. I think we both love music in our own ways. So we would really enjoy that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for watching.
Namaste.